Welcome to the magic, mystery, mayhem of Harry Potter's third season. It's the third year at Hogwarts, where secrets run deep, shadows lurk around every corner, and every corner hides a story to be unveiled. From the chilling arriving of the Dementors, the revelation of ancient friendships and hidden truths. This season 3 plunges into Harry's full life story in a world where nothing is as it seems. Brace yourself for betrayals, daring escapes, and powerful new spells, all while Harry learns what's truly inside him and what makes him drive. Get ready to binge every thrilling moment of Prisoner of Azkaban, the HBO TV series adapting the book for season 3. I'm going to be giving you my vision episode by episode, where every twist leads you closer to the heart of the story and the magic only grows stronger. I've put together the full season 3 Prisoner of Azkaban back to back, episode by episode. There's 10 episodes without any cuts. You're going to see the full binge cut version of what I think should be in the HBO TV series for the Prisoner of Azkaban. Sit back, relax. I'll put chapters in the description below, so jump to any episode you want to, and you can watch this over a couple of days. Just keep jumping in and out of this, and I really appreciate you being here with me. Aunt Marge inflates and floats away. Harry leaves Privet Drive. What happens to him now? We'll do a section in this where I'll look at each of the characters in this episode. We'll do a little bit more of a deep dive. Today I'm going to be giving you my vision of how Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban should be adapted for the new HBO Harry Potter series. I feel like there's so much more rich movie magic we can have from the books, stuff that was missed out from the movies. HBO has this chance to make this really good. Today I'm going to go through each of these chapters and explain what I think the vision of the new HBO series should look like. So today we're looking at episode 1 of season 3, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. This will be my vision of what I think HBO should make this series like. And I think episode 1 should start with, there's a lot more rich information in the book. So you'll see the first page starts, Harry Potter was a highly unusual boy in many ways. For one thing, he hated the summer holidays more than any other time of year. For another, he really wanted to do his homework, but was forced to do it in secret in the dead of night. And he also happened to be a wizard. Just that starting sums up basically what Harry Potter's life is like. He's been with the Dursleys for the last 3 seasons, and that's how each of the episodes start. I think that's a good starting. I like the fact we start in that normal homely environment, and in the HBO vision I'd like to see that as well. The reason for that is I've seen some leaked footage and video clips of the locations and Privet Drive, and it feels like if they use those warm homely UK locations, we should still get that vibe. When you read the book, there's a whole plethora of information that they're missing out in the movies. It's understandable, the movies are shorter, but HBO, you've got a real chance here. If this season is 10 episodes, the first 2 were 8 episodes each, but if this one is 10, we've got potential another 2 hours worth of episodes, so we can break down a lot more detail. And I'm glad you're joining me here today on the Prisoner of Azkaban's journey and my vision. So I'm going to explain the bits that I like, the bits that I want to elaborate on. I feel like there's loads of room here to improve this storyline. The book does it perfectly, but when you're reading it in your own time, just little details that stand out. For example, there's sections where Harry's reading his book with flashlight and closer to the book and read, non-magic people, more commonly known as muggles, were particularly afraid of magic in medieval times, but not very good at recognizing it. This one was amazing. On the rare occasion that they did catch a real witch or wizard, burning had no effect whatsoever. The witch or wizard would perform a basic flame freezing charm, and then pretend to shriek with pain, while enjoying a gentle tickling sensation. Indeed, Gwendolyn the Weird enjoyed being burned so much that she allowed herself to be caught no less than 47 times in various disguises. And I looked at the fandom page just to find out a little bit more about Gwendolyn the Weird, the history of magic book that refers to it. During the Middle Ages, Muggle witch hunts were at their peak, and it gives you like some interesting insights into that. So I feel like they could have a little moment there to maybe explore that. Like, I don't know if it's a flashback, I don't know how, but because we're reading more information in the book than we are getting in the movies or even the new series, depending on what they do, the Prisoner of Azkaban, there's so much information that gets missed out in the movie. In the first 5 or 6 minutes, it's basically Aunt Marge coming in, the rainy day, umbrella given to Harry, walks in, and it's kind of like there's a lot of stuff missed before that, showing the true bit of Harry where he's struggling and he's trying to do homework, which he's not allowed to do because Vernon has told him you can't have any of your magical stuff, and he's got a lot of homework to do. So it's very hard for him to be like a model student, but he still finds time under his covers to do that. So a whole little bit extra there we can play on. And even some of the characters that are involved, I feel like we can get a little bit more sense of those. We'll do a section in this where I'll look at each of the characters in this episode, and we'll do a little bit more of a deep dive. What do you think about that? In this episode, I'm giving it more informal. So in my past two ones, it was a little bit more formal for the Philosopher's Stone and the Chamber of Secrets. I've got all of those filmed, by the way, so if you want to go back and binge watch those in one full episode, you'll see links to the playlist. So they're individual episodes, but I'll put them all together for you for easy watching. And I'll try and do the same thing for this Prisoner Azkaban as well, so you have one full big list. So I feel like the moment before Marge, the kind of little negotiation that Harry has with Vernon about, you know what, I need to go to Hogsmeade, I got my form, can you sign it for me? There's a little bit more that we can play on there, because there's like some negotiation taking place that Vernon says, actually, you know, if you be nice, we'll think about it. And then of course we know it goes all belly up, head up, everything up. That's a little teaser what's coming. So my favorite section is that, well, we're going to build up to that. So when Ron's calling Vernon and he's using a phone for the first time, I think that would be a great scene to add into that, to show that he's tried to get in touch with Harry but he couldn't do, and how Harry kind of touches on the fact that actually Hermione's more of a normal person living with Muggle parents, so maybe she should have called, and there's little things there we can play on. So that was a really nice scene that we could look at, as well as the owl scene. There's like a whole section that's missed out. Would I have that? What would you have done? I would probably have the Ron phone call scene over the owls coming, but the owls bring presents for him, so there's a little bit more interesting bits there. Like Hermione sends the broom kit. Harry laughed as he put Hermione's letter aside and picked up her present. It was very heavy. Knowing Hermione, he was sure it would be a large book full of very difficult spells, but it wasn't. His heart gave a huge bound as he ripped back the paper and saw a sleek black leather case with silver words stamped across it, reading Broomstick Servicing Kit. So I can see him opening that up and like looking at intricate things. That'd be a really nice scene to have in there. And I think HBO could make that a little bit more magical. We've got more time to explore this. And I think in this first episode, we want to get a rich feel for all the details, as well as the presents coming, the phone call from Ron. There's loads of little things here that will make it even more magical. Because when I read the book, I get a real like sense of you're there, you're seeing it in your mind. And I feel like if HBO does it justice, they can do this really well. And I think already we discussed quite a little bit more here than was included in the movie. So I feel like I would also put the second chapter of the book in this episode, basically showing Aunt Marge. I think it's very interesting that they did this in the movie versus the book. She's coming over for a couple of weeks. A little bit more about how mean she was. So like she kind of jabbed at Harry a number of times, and we only get one or two of those in the movie. And I feel like we need to show that, you know what, she's quite a nasty piece of work, Marge is. And she almost reminds me of like a Matilda, Mrs. Trunchbull character, like a very bully rich. And they kind of gave her the time of day to give that impression of, you know, Dursley. Vernon was very nice to her, but then the flip opposite of when he spoke to Harry, his kind of tone changes really quickly. And the build up to her coming, like how Harry said he'll be really good. Also in the book, when Marge is kind of having a go at Harry, he'll like think of other things in his mind to kind of zone out, and that's what made Marge think, you know what, he's a bit special or something, because he's glazed over in a way. So in the book, I like how they did that. So maybe having a scene or two where Marge is going at him and he's just like vacant, like what are you talking about? I'm thinking about broomsticks and cleaning kits. So that's like a really nice scene that could be in there. And also that section, the best build up of all times, Marge being inflated. I like the cup scene, where she, you know, when he does the bzzz, and the not cup, the wine glass. That was a good scene. I enjoyed that moment, and it shows how Harry's like grown up a little bit now, because he got quite angry and like he made it vocal as well. So he's a little bit more teenager. He's a little bit more unpredictable. So the movie gave us that hint. But I feel like we needed to show that it was built up to that stage. Harry didn't just go into that zone straight away by one or two comments. Like Marge really built up to him, getting him angry and angrier slowly. And that one is a good scene. But then also, as she tries to tries to tell him off basically about her parents, about Harry's parents, she'll do the like, the finger blows up and then she gets all fat and then she hovers over to the sky. That one is really good. And I like the fact that as Harry's like, he's lost it basically, he goes upstairs, kicks his box, his suitcase, and he sits down, looks at the photo, and then you see that actually, you know what, he wasn't sure. He was like, he had to react because he hasn't got his parents, and she was talking ill of them. And then Harry's about to leave and Vernon kind of says, bring her back this instant. And he's like, pulls out this, you know, the wand. Whereas in the book, he kind of says he digs out the wand, but he's already got it and he's coming down the stairs and he scares Vernon. He leaves the house, takes the suitcase with him, and he's stranded. He's out and about. But I like, as he's walking away, if you pay attention in the movie, you'll see like Marge floating around the sky just as he's going after that scene. And then that whole scene starts where we're going to see what happens to him. But that's really very nice bit. We can have a cliffhanger that actually Harry's out of his normal home of, you know, the last 3 episodes, Dursley's has been his home. And now he's moved out of there, but he's left and he's on the roadside. And then that would be our cliffhanger. I think that's where they should stop, as in what happens next. But I'm thinking about the characters. Let's have a quick dive at the characters that were in this scene and their key traits, because I feel like in the last couple of episodes I gave you my vision, but this one I'm free flowing. I want to like just speak to you like we're having a chat and a butterbeer at the cauldron, the leaky cauldron. So let me know if you prefer this style of video as opposed to the ones I've done before. If so, I'll do more of this style. The other ones I kind of a little bit edit too much. If it was, I get rid of all the gaps and where I speak and make a mistake, whereas now I'm just gonna speak to you as we are. And let me know how you're finding these videos. I really enjoy your comments as well, so let me know in the comments if you like that. Aunt Marge inflates and floats away. Harry leaves Privet Drive. What happens to him now? So in this first couple of episodes, you get a feeling that Harry is really resilient. He's under constant abuse from the family and he handles it really well. And also in this episode, we find that Harry's a little bit emotionally raw. He finds it difficult to kind of control his anger. And in the book version, Harry's very thoughtful and clever because he uses special tactics to kind of zone himself out when Marge is giving him grief, he zones himself out. Also, it's interesting that Harry's very loyal and principled. So considering he's following the rules for the Hogsmeade thing, like getting a signature from the parents and not just signing it himself, so it's very good to show that element that he asked for it in the character dive of this, Vernon's a little bit more interesting in this role. He's very controlling, he's very hypocritical, so he'll be like very nice with Marge, and then when he's talking to Harry he'll be very harsh. And it is clear to know that from Vernon's beliefs, he kind of seems like he's very obsessed with appearances and keeping up like the right appearance for neighbours and social status for him. And Vernon's very quick to panic when things go wrong, and he's like Vernon's one of the main characters in like the mistreatment of Harry. And from Aunt Petunia, from these kind of scenes, you get a feeling that she's very like cold and prim. She's obsessed with cleanliness. She's mostly silent in like the abuse towards Harry, but there's this element there that she's kind of jigging on like Vernon in terms of how it's playing out, and she's very tense around reminders about Lily. She kind of tolerates Marge with all like how nasty she is and the way she's got bad table manners and things. And it's clear to see Dudley in this kind of setup. He's spoiled, he's indulgent. How would you have treated him differently? He's selfish and food focused. He's basically motivated by rewards, because it's kind of like she hands him a 20 for being like who he is, because Marge is kind of being nice to him and all my dudders and all this stuff. Oblivious to others, so he doesn't really notice the suffering. It's just him. And he can act like a bit of comic relief in tense situations, like when Marge floats away. You get a little shot back at Dudley and he's kind of got cake on his little apron and he just kind of proceeds to eat it, even though there's lots of stuff going on, which is very rare. Like, what? Someone's floating out of the house? Aunt Marge was like very cruel. She's like domineering, and she does like dog breeding for a living, so she speaks in a different way, like similar to how you would speak about dogs, like using those analogies. She's got like an exaggerated physique, like very arrogant. She's got that, like I was saying, the Trunchbull kind of feel about her, like from Matilda. She's got that kind of vibe, and she's really obsessed by like breeding and family and quality of like lines, and similar to how you would have like a breeding of animals. So she sees it really differently. She lacks self-control. She'll say what she wants to say regardless of who's there, and that causes anger in like that kind of situation. It's also interesting about the two dogs, her bulldogs. So we've got Ripper and we've got Kernard Fobster. So these like little mirrors her temperament. They're basically like a spitting image of her if she was a dog, and also the way they act, like they're very aggressive. Even when she was floating away, the dogs were biting at Vernon's ankles, and it's like, what? You've been there for a while, you know who he is. Why is that such a thing? If you're liking what I'm doing, drop a like on this video. It really helps encourage me to carry on. And also, I'm making slightly longer versions of these now with a little bit more character dive. Do you like this version? Let me know. I'd love to hear from you. Or should I stick to my original that I did for the first 2 seasons? And I'd like this episode to end on this cliffhanger. Aunt Marge inflates and floats away. Harry leaves Privet Drive. What happens to him now? The next episode, we're going to get a sneak peek about this dark animal that comes towards Harry as he's out on the streets, and the night bus coming to save him. And I really like that episode. Welcome to the night bus, emergency transport for the stranded witch or wizard. Just stick out your wand hand, step on board, and we can take you anywhere you want to go. Take it away, Ern. It's going to be a bumpy ride. This is the night bus, episode 2 of season 3, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. This is my vision of what I think should be in each of the episodes. I'm going through them in detail, looking at what the book did, what the movie did, what do I want included, and a lot more detail is basically what we all want. More information. The book did a great job. Why did the movie miss out so many great bits? Luckily, today we're going to discuss them, and I'm going to tell you what I want to see. So we've left off on the last episode with Harry leaving Privet Drive, basically inflated Marge and she flew away, and now we're at the point that he's sitting on the curb waiting to find out what he's going to do with his life. And I feel like in the book there's so much more information here. Again, it's rich with detail. You can feel and read the detail and understand what he's feeling. He's lonely, he's waiting, but then at the same time he's hearing noises, and then something's coming towards him, and that is a moment which is a bit confusing sometimes, because is it Sirius Black? Was that dog Sirius? Would he have talked to Harry if the night bus didn't come? That's always a question I've asked myself. What do you think? Was it Sirius or was it just a dog? Because if you remember, what did happen was in the first episode, Vernon saw on the TV that someone's escaped from prison and he looked like gangly and his hair was matted, and Harry kind of caught wind of that. Whereas in the movies we don't really see that. The only time we hear about it is once he's in the bus and he's seen it at the back of the newspaper. So that was like a little foresight in the book that was very nicely played out. Should we have got that early on so we could make a little bit more of a clear decision of what Harry's seeing or experiencing? Gets his wand out, does Lumos, falls backwards and is in the air, and then the night bus comes. So was it that Lumos and feeling of scared, like tension, caused the night bus to arrive? Or was it Sirius Black actually trying to indicate to Harry that actually do this, and if you're a bit scared, the night bus is going to come and save you? So that's a bit of a confusing point for me, but I feel like there could have been a little bit more elaboration on that to understand who was that dog, why did it scare him, dog, wolf, black animal, depends what you want to how you would describe it. But yeah, at this moment then we're a little bit more relaxed now. Actually wait, there is a system set up in the wizarding world to save wizards or witches that are stranded. So the night bus comes, famous triple decker bus, violent purple was I think the description in the book, and we get the Stan coming to save him. So I let me have a look at this in the book. I want to give you like a proper description. Welcome to the night bus, emergency transport for the stranded witch or wizard. Just stick out your wand hand, step on board, and we can take you anywhere you want to go. My name is Stan Shunpike, and I will be your conductor this eve. The conductor stopped abruptly. He had just caught sight of Harry, who was still sitting on the ground. This is when obviously he famously falls over because of the scare he got from the dog. So I like that there's that setup there. Stan is going to come and rescue him. He brings him on board, but there's a little bit more there in the book which I liked. Like, how much is this going to cost? He pulls the money out, and then they both pick the suitcase up and put it in the bus. So there's a lot more there to play on, and because we've got more time with HBO, I like those details. When I was reading it in the book, it's kind of more enticing that, oh, okay, that makes a little bit more sense. It makes me feel more a part of the scene. So it's like, okay, if I was in a bus, then I'd be worried about, oh, have I got enough money? Have I got the right change? And in the book, they give you that detail. So it plays on the reality of it, making it more immersive. What do you think? Should they include that bit? I think they should. So Stan proudly announces in the anywhere you like, as long as it's on land, like I can take you anywhere you want basically. So that's good. And as Harry gets on board, there's a little bit more like to and from. There's people there that he talks a little bit with, which is missed out in the movies. I like that, but I think I'll pick the getting on the bus detail versus talking to people in the bus. That was nice, but seeing like how they talked to him and how Harry said he's Neville Longbottom and kind of hid his name a little bit to hide who he is, and then the driver and the comedy heads, all of that stuff was nice. I like how they go through the town, they show London, so it's very immersive after that. I enjoyed all of that, so I'd like to keep that if they do it in a better way. They have said they're not going to use CGI, so it'll be interesting to see like how they do a lot of this stuff. There will need to be some type of, with the bus shrinking and getting through, I don't know if they'll stick with that, because a lot of that was like creative stuff as well. So they do speak about that a little bit more in the book. So they do, Stan does unfold the newspaper, Daily Prophet, and then Harry kind of says, oh yeah, I saw that guy in the Muggle news, and like that was an interesting point, because then we find out as he reads the paper that the Prime Minister, Ministry of Magic kind of had to let the Muggle Prime Minister know that this guy's out and about and he has caused like deaths. He's killed people, and some of who were Muggle. So he had to warn the Muggle Prime Minister, which is why he was on the news. So I feel like this extra information makes it more interesting, more like, oh, okay, now it makes sense. Whereas there's elements in the books which explain itself very well. And if we have one in the movie or in the HBO series, we need to have the other as well to explain like the linkage between those. So nice overall coherency. And it kind of, the paper reads, Black still at large. Sirius Black, possibly the most infamous prisoner ever to be held in Azkaban fortress, is still eluding capture. The Ministry of Magic confirmed today. So like there's little bits from the newspaper that Harry reads out, and then they have that conversation. And we also get like a more of a deep dive into Sirius and what people believe he's like. Because Stan kind of gives the newspaper to Harry. Harry reads it. Oh, he killed 16 people and there was some muggles in there and he had one curse, and what? It's a little bit shocking there. And then Stan confirms, yeah, that's what happened, and they had to inform the Muggle Prime Minister. So it's very like, there's a little deep dive there. I will do a character dive as well. So each of the characters that are in this episode, I'll do like a little bit of an overview of what I think about them, how they appear, what they seem like. So I want to add that into these episodes to give you my vision and make it a little bit more full encompassing. So stay around for that section. It's also interesting that in the book, they'll ask Harry, like, where do you want to go? And they forget to give him his hot chocolate that he paid for as well. So there's quite a little bit of like extra detail there that I think was nice, because Harry was thinking in his mind that I'll go to Diagon Alley, go to Gringotts, get some money out and then decide what I want to do. But then obviously they go to the Leaky Cauldron, because the Leaky Cauldron would be the entrance to Diagon Alley. It's also interesting how Harry meets Fudge. So as he steps off the night bus, you kind of get that hand on the shoulder and he looks around and it's Cornelius Fudge. And then he's like, he speaks to Harry, and then the night bus stand is like, what do you call Neville? And then it's like, oh, he's Harry, not Neville. And then he's like, oh yeah, I knew it. And he kind of saw his head and then scar and stuff. So he's a bit interesting, that little perspective. And how we get it in the movie is totally different from that. So I feel like this version is a little bit more like, oh, okay. He kind of, Cornelius says, oh, I'm glad the night bus picked you up and saved you. And then they kind of go into more conversation. So it's interesting that Cornelius Fudge then goes into the Leaky Cauldron. They basically settle down, get a private room. And we also get a little glance from the book's perspective of Stan and Ern bringing in like the luggage for Harry and putting it down. And then he's like, oh, why didn't you tell me you were Harry? And he kind of like just carries on, and Harry goes into the room and they start speaking with Cornelius Fudge. I like it that he tells Harry a little update that, oh, we sent somebody to sort out your Aunt Marge, and we kind of deflated it and sorted it out. And he said, not to worry, don't worry about it. So he's trying to put Harry at ease that you did magic. But in the movies, we see that we don't take people to Azkaban for putting spells on their aunts. So it's like a little bit of a play there, but in the book there's a bit more detail. But when they settle down, they kind of speak a little bit more about it, and I feel like there's more here we can play on. Did you like the fact that the books share that memory with the movies, and what could HBO do better? Also, I like the conversation that takes place between Harry and Cornelius Fudge, because Harry kind of says, well, if you're letting me off this time, why did you send me an official warning when I did the magic when Chamber of Secrets, when the cake dropped and I used the spell apparently that you thought I used, and Dobby? So I like that conversation that takes place, and also it shows Harry's challenging side, that wait a minute, if it's the rule, should it not be for everyone? Why was it like the rule was enforced then but you're not going to enforce it now? So that was very good. I like that, and I think they should include that in the HBO version. And was it right for Harry to challenge that? Why was he let go before? Why is he being let go now but not being let go before? So Cornelius Fudge kind of insinuates to Harry that, you know what, don't go out into Muggle London, but it's alright for you to go into Diagon Alley, but just make it back each day. Tom will keep an eye on you. So Harry starts thinking at this point that Cornelius Fudge might be able to sign his Hogsmeade letter. So Harry's already still thinking about his school and like trying to get to this trip. So he tries to ask him, and it makes it a bit awkward, but they don't include that, I don't think. But that was a nice little touch where Harry was still thinking about that. And then it's just interesting how it works out. One thing I'll definitely like to see more of is as Harry then settles down into the Leaky Cauldron, he spends the night, room 11, he's there, and he's got a nice comfortable bed. And we in the book it gives us details of like every morning he gets up, he has breakfast, he goes through, taps the bricks, goes in Diagon Alley. He doesn't go into Muggle England, London. So I want to see some of that like daily routine just to make us part of this, because I think that would kind of set us down. What does it look like in Leaky Cauldron to have a breakfast? He's having breakfast and noticing other witches and wizards from the village coming in, and like all of this small detail adds to like the atmosphere. So I feel like it'd be a really great thing to add into the HBO series. We've got more time for it. So do you think they will add it? I think they should. Also, it's interesting that they touch on the fact that he can now sit in the open and practice his magic. Like he'll sit outside the ice cream parlor and get sundaes, and the guys at the ice cream parlor will help him as well. So I feel like There's lots of little details there. Also, Harry being careful with his money because he goes to the bank, takes money out, but he wants to be conscious that he doesn't spend all the money at once because he's got 5 more years at Hogwarts and he has to pay for his books. Like the last thing he wants to do is ask the Dursleys to pay for his books. So it's like loads of little extra information there that I really liked in the book. And I think the series, it'll be really good. I want to see that in there. And also we get like the small details about Harry going through the shops in Diagon Alley, and then kind of seeing a lot of the Quidditch shop having a lot of people in the shop and a lot of hoo-ha. So he goes in to have a look, which moves out the way, and Harry sees the Thunderbolt, one of the new broomsticks. So like they touch on the fact that there's like a whole atmosphere of buying, selling sports merchandise similar to how we have football and things. So like a whole little group there that's very excited about that. And I feel like that's something that we could touch on during this little section where they show us more about Harry's life away from the Dursleys, in the Leaky Cauldron, with Diagon Alley, the shops, his daily routine where he's a little bit more free, he's relaxed, he's got his own money, he can do what he wants as long as he's within the magical world. So I feel like there's more scope here we can use. What do you think? Would that be a good? I think that would be a good addition. And I think it'll also be nice in Prisoner of Azkaban to show that whole new shopping cycle. So like we saw it in the first episode where Harry goes and buys all his stuff getting ready for school. But in the Prisoner of Azkaban, when he's there, he's actually buying things because his uniforms become too small. He's got 2 new subjects he needs to buy books for. He's thought about the broomstick, the Thunderbolt, but he kind of goes against it thinking, I don't know if I want to spend that much money on that. I've already got a good enough broomstick. So I think this little another shopping spree would be nice to see there. Just Harry on his own this time going through. He's a little bit older. He's using money and putting through galleons and things. So that would be like a really nice little cutaway that we could see as well. But I think there's another element that we could touch on here. So with the new supplies, as Harry's shopping, he needs to buy the book, the monster book, and he goes into the shop and the owner's like, oh yeah, do you want the book? And he's got a section in the book which says, oh, he's got a stick and he's hitting the books and saying calm down, because the books are all, obviously they're the ones that do the actual monsters, and that's because Harry already got it because Hagrid sent it to him as a present. If you remember, that was like the starting of the series episodes. So I feel like that's another one we could have, and that could almost be a section similar to Ollivander's shop, like a famous bookshop with books that are monsters that are flapping, and the owner is kind of scared of getting them and he doesn't want to stock them again. So it's very good. I like that bit. I think we should definitely include that. I think Flourish and Blots could be like an Ollivander's in terms of how famous it is if they include this one scene, which I'd love to be included in the HBO series. And also it's nice to show quality Quidditch supplies. I think there's important scenes there because when Harry's on his own now, he's venturing out to Diagon Alley and he kind of meets Finnegan and he's meeting other people because now people are starting to come to buy their things for their new year. So I think that'd be a nice little addition to show like slowly people are getting buzzed up for the new year starting of school and buying all the stuff they'll need. And also then Harry then meets Ron and Hermione, and they kind of talk about the little journey of, oh yeah, have you got all your books, have you got your stuff? And Ron's bought a new Ron's bought his new wand because obviously he broke his last year. So wand for Weasley gets his wand, and Hermione has like 3 or 4 bags on the chair next to her when she's sitting outside the ice cream parlor, and that shows that Hermione says, I've taken more subjects than you guys. So it brings a little bit more about her taking like a bit more of a intelligent stance on like, oh, I'm going to be really hard revising. So I feel like that was a nice addition that we could do with the new HBO series as well. It's also nice when they go and buy the pets, so Crookshanks, and then a little bit about Scabbers, getting him checked over, and there's like little bits there hinting towards something's not quite right with Scabbers. So I feel like we could have this moment in the HBO series, and it plays on the fact that, you know what, Scabbers, 3 years, rats don't live that long. And yes, future episode spoiler there. And I also feel like this moment where all the Weasleys get together and they have the little to and fro is very nice, and I feel like it brings that home family feeling back to Harry that he's not had for a while. So they should show a little bit about this where they're having the little to and fro. The Arthur comes and Molly's there and the kids are there and they're talking about the head boy, and all that little extra information is very nice in the episode. It brings everything back, grounds it a little bit to like a normal family, which was great for Harry to see, and even us for the HBO series. And also because the Weasleys are staying at the Leaky Cauldron with Harry, it's like kind of nice that they asked their dad like, how are we getting to King's Cross tomorrow? And Arthur says, the ministry is providing some cars. So they're like, what? How is that happening? Why are we so famous all of a sudden? So that touches on the fact that they're still worried about Harry and they want to have some kind of like looking after of Harry done. So that's why they're supplying the cars. But a lot of this isn't touched on in the movies at all. So there's loads of details in the books. If you haven't read the books, you should definitely check them out because they're very rich. They're very focused. You'll see a lot more detail there and a whole new generation for HBO. You need to check out this series. Hopefully my vision is giving you a little bit of insight to this to give you the feeling to check out the book. If you haven't already done so, definitely check it out. I might include links in the description so you can actually look at the books and get some for yourself. But that's how we're going so far. Let's carry on. It's also very interesting at the Leaky Cauldron. In the book, we get this detail where Molly and Arthur are arguing over Sirius Black and kind of... the argument is basically, should we tell Harry? Because Arthur thinks Harry should know that Sirius Black in his dreams has been saying he's at Hogwarts. And it feels like Sirius Black almost wants to kill Harry, is how it's pictured in the book. So there's a lot of like detail here which shows that actually, wait a minute, this guy that's missing is somehow linked to Harry. So there's a lot of information in the book that's not included. And I feel like this type of conversation in the HBO series will give a lot more deeper meaning and give us like a thought process that, oh, wait a minute, so this Sirius Black is going to be coming after Harry for something. And also the fact that they've said the Ministry wants to get Dementors as guards around Hogwarts. And Molly kind of says, wait, don't worry, Dumbledore's at Hogwarts and he won't let anything bad happen to Harry. And the cliffhanger for this episode is going to be Harry hearing all of this, lying in his bed thinking, wait a minute, someone's coming to kill me? And in the book, we get a lot more information about this. And in the next episode, it's going to be, who are these guards that are going to be laid around Hogwarts to protect us? So the next episode, we're going to be seeing the Dementors. I'm hoping you find my vision of this episode interesting and intriguing and it's keeping you hooked. If so, let me know in the comments. Like the video if you like this vibe. I'm starting to go into these in a lot more detail. You fainted, Potter? Malfoy's voice cut sharper than a hex, a sneer delivered not just to Harry, but to every kid who's ever been told vulnerability is weakness. Episode 3 of Harry Potter dives headfirst into one of the most emotionally complex returns to Hogwarts yet. Gone is the whimsical back-to-school charm of earlier years, replaced now by dark skies, cold carriages, and the lingering chill of Dementors at the gates. This is Harry Potter at a turning point, haunted, doubted, and just beginning to understand that not all battles leave visible scars. In this breakdown, I'll focus on 3 key scenes left out or glossed over in the films that deserves their full weight in an HBO adaptation, from the uneasy silence of the moody carriages to the quiet power of Professor Lupin and the unsung support of McGonagall and Madame Pomfrey. The grim and the news isn't just about dark creatures, it's about what darkness does to us and who helps us through it. In today's episode, I'm going to be focusing on 3 main points I want HBO to adapt into this episode 3 of season 3. Let's have a look at these. In the last episode, we left off when Harry left the Dursleys' house. He was sitting on the side of the road and the night bus picked him up. We had the whole night bus scene, which is amazing. So if you haven't caught up on that, check out that previous episode. And we left off where Arthur was telling Harry, don't go after Sirius Black. And Harry was a bit confused. He was saying, why would I go after someone who's trying to kill me? So that's where we left up. Today we're picking up with the school scene. So this is going to be an emotional aftermath of the Dementor attack and the carriage ride where we meet the Professor Lupin, which is a nice scene. I'm going to talk more about that. So Harry saw 2 more towering hooded Dementors standing guard on either side. A wave of cold sickness threatened to engulf him again. So a couple of key things I think HBO can really do well here. So when Harry's getting onto the train, it was interesting to me when I was reading the books that the Cornelius Fudge arranges special cars from like the Ministry to get them delivered to King's Cross. But if they were that worried about him, why did they not have special cars to deliver him to Hogwarts? Why have the interim train process? So that was really weird for me to see. But I think that's a nice touch to HBO. We could probably have some fancy, not night bus, but cars because in the book it goes into detail where they speak about, the drivers were wearing nice clothes, they had fancy cars, and they were able to get to the front of queues and wish through like traffic and things. So I think there could be a nice scene there where we could have a car that is special. So we got like that night bus magic. So it'd be another interesting thing to see in the whole universe of Harry Potter. But yeah, they drop them off and they get on the train and the Dementor thing. So they get on there and they've got someone sitting in the corner. They're not sure who he is. Hermione, being the smart ass she is, turns out, oh yeah, Professor Lupin, says it on his trunk. And they discover he's sitting there, and Harry kind of lets Hermione and run into what's happened, and they're worried a little bit, and then the train stops. They're worried and something happens. So Harry faints. He's worried that he's the only one to faint. Why did nobody else faint? And he's like shaken and ashamed. And there's a scene there where Malfoy in the train takes the mick out of Harry, kind of like trying to play on the fact that he was like the only one that fainted, and Ron and Hermione didn't really have much of an effect. And that's the moment for Lupin to shine. Professor Lupin into the scene with his little like famous chocolate giving out and getting that famous, in the book anyway, Madame Pomfrey's like, oh well, it's good, we've got someone in the dark arts who knows about like that kind of stuff, where he was able to give them chocolate to recover. So it's a real swaying scene there, very mystical. I'm going to be very closely watching HBO to see how they do the Dementor scene, because they've already said they don't want to get too invested into like CGI. So what does that mean? Will the Dementors be like used as plots, devices? Because originally, like from J.K. Rowling's point of view, she put in Dementors as like a rolling depression type feeling. So it's very interesting to see that from that point of view. So I think the film glosses over some of these, and I really want them to include more of them. They could expand in the article like the moody carriage, the bumpy ride, the looming gates as Harry gets closer into like turmoil. What he's seeing, like the screams he heard, it was like very quick in the movie version. We get more detail in the book, so maybe we need more detail on that. And then obviously when Malfoy has his public mockery, so you fainted, Potter. Is Longbottom telling the truth? You actually fainted? Is there a problem? Said a mild voice. Professor Lupin had just gotten out of the next carriage. So I feel this scene is like absent in the film, and it's dramatic gold. You know, that famous Malfoy and Harry kind of play off. And I feel like when they get the new cast, this could really set them apart, just to show us that Harry and Draco have this relationship. I think deep down they care about each other, but it's just on the top surface. There's like a lot of to and from. So I feel like there's a taunting moment for Harry in public, fainting, and toxic masculinity versus vulnerability, because Draco's kind of trying to show off that he's hard and stuff, and he's playing on that fact. I think it's contrasted with Snape's latitude, and I feel like Harry has like got a bit of internal embarrassment, because he's like worried that why did he act so differently compared to everybody else. So I feel like that scene would be nice to have in there. It'll give us a bit more like a view of it and how they act, and a bit more inside the trains, because I feel like there's lots of dialogue that happens in the trains which we don't get in the movies. And there's a bit here where I think would be nice playing off on the back of the realistic view of like mental health, because McGonagall and Pomfrey kind of, he's taken to like the hospital wing and they're setting the Dementors around the school. So this is like a quote from it. She muttered, pushing back Harry's hair and feeling his forehead. He wouldn't be the last one who collapses. Yes, all clammy, terrible things they are, and the effect they have on people who are already delicate. I'm not delicate, said Harry crossly. This is a Pomfrey scene. I feel like this is a nice one to have, because it shows Harry's kind of reaction to what's going on. And the scene entirely cut from the movie, but it's incredibly important, setting the fact that firstly, Pomfrey is quite important, like the nurse looking after everyone. She's trying to make him feel better. Also that she encourages to say that it's good to have a teacher who like understands these things, because Lupin gave him chocolate. So the teachers and adults need a little bit more quiet support even though Harry rejects it, it's nice to see that option there, that they've got like someone to rely on. And it also reaffirms Lupin's credibility. Did the scary old Dementor frighten you too, Weasley? Guess who said that? So we've finally got a defense against the dark arts teacher who knows his remedies. Can you guess who said that? Let me know in the comments. This episode should have a cliffhanger, and the cliffhanger should be Harry's death prediction in the Grim. I feel like that's where we're going to be cliffhanging on. So we have the class, she explains what's going on, Harry will do his swirl, famous cup look, and then we see the Grim. And I feel like this is a nice point we can have a cliffhanger on. And the next episode will be where the Dementors actually arrive. So in summary, in this episode, I really want to see more about the train journey and how the Dementors affect Harry. And then I want that middle scene where Malfoy confronts him and kind of like, why did you faint? That's very important. And then having that extra information about Pomfrey kind of trying to treat him, and with the chocolate scene and finding out why did he act in this way, why did he collapse, and then that final touch where we're going to be in the class and Harry's going to see the Grim, which will be the cliffhanger. All of these extra little steps will be very good to add in there. I want them done in a magical way, in a dark atmosphere. We have left behind season 1 and season 2 where we had more of like a whimsical feel, like a Home Alone type feel with the Chris Columbus kind of setting the scene, but now it's darker. I do think as they grow up, it is getting darker, it's getting more serious, more like a horror thriller. But it's important to keep those key elements that we enjoyed in the first seasons. If you're liking these episodes, please drop a like on it. It really helps me, encourage me to carry on making more of these. I know season 3 hasn't officially been announced by HBO, but I wanted to get my vision in because I'm on a roll now. I'm doing quite a few of these. I enjoyed doing season 1, season 2, which you can watch in full, uncut, entire seasons, episode back to back. I'll put a link in the description to a playlist and a link it to the end cards. I think you really enjoyed that. I liked making them. I'm hoping you're liking watching these. And let's get this going. I am on Twitter at Wondatell, Twitter also known as X. I'm quite active there, so I post like questions and stuff and some behind the scenes stuff asking you what do you think I should do with this episode. So do get involved, and I'll see you on the next episode, which is today we're looking at episode 4 of season 3, Prisoner of Azkaban, adapted into HBO's version. We left off in the last episode with the Grim as the cliffhanger. Today we're going to be looking at the 3 main points I think we should have more detail on in the HBO Harry Potter series. In wizarding lore, especially British magical superstition, the Grim is a spectral, ghost-like black dog seen as a death omen. It's considered the worst sign in the wizarding world, and Harry keeps seeing it, first outside Magnolia Crescent when he fell down before he got onto the night bus, and again in Trelawney's class. So it's interesting to see a little bit more about Harry's normal day-to-day classes. In the film we do see an element of this because obviously they're all there in the class, they got the teacups, it sounds a little bit boring, the kids are all a bit tired, but they go through and look at the shaking the tea leaves and seeing what happens. I feel like that scene was okay. It was maybe an extra addition, maybe I wouldn't have as much detail on that one. It's good to see the Grim, but maybe do it in a different way. So I feel like the idea of Harry's doomed is kind of already in process. So slowly throughout this episode so far has been building up to it that Sirius is out. He wants to get Harry, so we know someone is after him. We've got a rough idea that when he was outside the night bus and he fell over, a dog was growling at him. So a dark black dog. In the teacup, a dark black Grim. So he's like, okay, 3s, so maybe there's another one coming. But I feel like we don't need as much on that. Maybe that's not like a scene that would be very important to cover. I know we've got lots of time in this episode because we should have 10 episodes for this because it's a bigger book and there's more detail. But I feel like there's lots more we can cover. So instead of the Trelawney scene, like the class scene, I'd probably like to see something more around Hagrid, because we're told now that Hagrid's going to be taking over, and the magical creatures and the monster book and like Buckbeak, and I feel like there's a lot more there we can go through. So I think I'd focus more on that element of this episode because like there's a misunderstanding about the narrative and the plot and the twist, because Sirius is later on we're going to find out what he's actually like, Why was he doing what he was doing? Is he someone to be afraid of? Is he trying to help, or is he a hindrance? So I think the story offers a little bit of loneliness towards Harry because he's not really sure what's happening. But I think the grim symbol itself is like a death, being alone, abandoned, powerless for Harry. But I don't know. I feel like, let me know, what do you think about this? Would you like this scene to be added in the HBO version, or should we replace it with something else? So 3 main areas I want to fall out. I feel like because we're already in class, there's still elements of Harry's worried about the Dementor attack. So I feel we can still have elements there because it contrasts sharply. It's like a pivotal moment for Harry because he's been officially attacked. Like he's been... the Dementors attacked him, I think. Because that, sucking all his life and his happiness away, that's a major attack. So I feel like that's his first proper, unless I'm mistaken. Let me know if has he had any other bits that I'm missing, thinking back. But definitely let me know in the comments. So I feel the aftermath of that is now he knows what it feels like. He doesn't want to experience that again. And also why he reacted in that way. We touched on this in the last episode. But I feel like they could look deeper into his emotional weight of like that decision. Like the Dementors represent mental illness. So trauma, is he susceptible to that? Is that something that's going to be like an ongoing theme? Because he's kind of not in that right headspace at the moment. Is building the weakness, is building tension. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? And it's really nice to also see the main scene that I feel like we need to have more detail on. So Hagrid being made like the magical teacher and like the creatures, I feel like that needs more focus. Can we see a little bit more about like his planning for the lesson? He's already got Harry the book, the monster book. So now Harry knows why he was given the monster book. And we had that Dumbledore speech kind of saying the 2 new teachers, and he talks about Lupin and then Hagrid. And I feel there's more detail here we can go into because Hagrid is becoming a professor. Like from originally, if you think why he wasn't allowed to have his wand, he kind of did something bad apparently, and then he wasn't allowed to be like anybody. He's a gamekeeper. He looks after like a big caretaker for the Hogwarts, but him having his own class is like a big thing, and Harry wants him to succeed. So it's like not cool that Malfoy's there trying to make fun of the class, and like he couldn't open his book. He's like, oh, okay, so I have to stroke my book to open it. And it's a character building exercise, I think, there. It shows what Hagrid could be like as a teacher. In the movie, we saw elements of this, but the main focus is how good Harry is with the creatures. So he kind of kicks it off with Buckbeak. He has that famous ride over the water, the lake. And I feel there's more bits there we can look at. In the book, there's a lot more detail here, so it'd be good to get some of that in the new HBO series. And it's also interesting to see the whole like injustice here, where like it's not what you know, it's who you know. So like the Buckbeak's trial happening and Malfoy hurting himself and then Buckbeak being put on trial. It's all Malfoy's fault, said Hermione earnestly. It'd be nice to see this as like a courtroom setup in the series of how this trial really takes effect, because in the movies it's kind of like, oh yeah, Cornelius Fudge is there and they kind of look over it and stuff. And it's also important to remember what the like relationships were like between the teachers. So if you know, Harry's already trusting Lupin because of that first scene in like the train, because the Dementors were there and Lupin offered him like reassurance that, I'm looking after you. Then he gave him the chocolate to help him feel better. So we instantly get a feeling that, okay, this professor knows what he's doing. He was able to get rid of the Dementors. He was able to offer a resolution to make Harry feel a little bit better. And also he jumped in when Malfoy was trying to be a bit snarky. But this is a bit of a contrast. In Hogwarts, there's a little bit loathing between Lupin and Snape. So like it's Lupin is like Shaggy's a bit shabby, quiet, and he's unassuming, but it's like there's a reaction from Snape is pure loathing. So if you look at the book, there's like a little bit of a play there. Why does Snape hate Lupin so much? Is there like a story behind the story that we need to be aware of? Could there be a flashback here showing was he part of something that caused Snape to have like massive heartache towards him and he doesn't really like him from like an early experience? The history involved, because we all know there's quite a lot of that going around, and also gives us an idea of why Snape is the way he is. Was he treated badly when he was young? And who really deserves the defense against the dark arts role? Should Snape be the one? Because everybody knows he's been trying to get it for years, apparently. This adds to the mystery and like further plot twist in the HBO series, because we want to get into some of this detail which wasn't really mentioned in the movies. So we want to see it step by step, slowly building up to the bigger reveals, and then we can get more detail about these. We have got more episodes, remember, so it'll be very important to get a lot more of this. I feel like this episode there's moments that stand out to me when I'm watching or reading, and I feel like the Buckbeak scene is very good, and also having that train journey and the Dementors and the Grim. The Grim doesn't stand out to me as much as the Buckbeak, so because of that I feel like we can expand a lot more on Buckbeak, Hagrid's lessons, the monster book, a little bit of the atmosphere of what the students are doing, how they're feeling, and there's loads of little elements there that we want a little bit more backstory. HBO has got the chance here because we've got more episodes, we've got longer run times, and this one is 10 episodes, so maybe we need to expand out a lot more about the school atmosphere, the magical creatures, get us really involved, show us a little bit more, show us how Hagrid planned his lesson because it's his first one and he wants to make it a success, and also why Malfoy decided to have a bit of a Buckbeak fight, and then that whole trial situation, maybe a build up to the tension there, how potentially Hagrid's first lesson has gone knees up because Buckbeak's gone and harmed a student. I feel like this is really nice to have some scenes around Hogwarts, so maybe show different elements of like going through classes, the different lessons they've had, and then I think the cliffhanger should be the fat lady's portrait slashed open, students screaming, "It's Sirius Black." So that would be like a good point to have a cliffhanger for. And then the next episode we look around how Lupin is going to train everyone, the boggart in the wardrobe. I think that's where we need to do. So in summary, for this episode, we've looked at a couple of the key points. I know in the last episode we stopped on the cliffhanger of the Grim, but I'm really questioning, do we want that scene here? Is that an important one? Let me know what you think about that. And also the Dementors and Dumbledore's like kind of disapproval about having those characters around the school. Like, what does he feel about it? Dementors, like, formally, they're quite bad. They're like depression animals, basically. We had to look at Buckbeak and Hagrid's first lessons as like the teacher and professor. So it's very interesting to play on that fact. And I feel like that could be massive for HBO to play on that. Get a few more lessons from him maybe, and look at some of the book details about like the conversations that happened there. Also Lupin's introduction and Snape's loathing and like that backstory there. So all of these build into this fact, and it's nice to see all of this. I feel that HBO could really expand on some of these topics, and it'll be really interesting to see which elements they play on. We've got Harry, we've got Hermione, we've got Ron, and then we're going to slowly expand the teachers. We get more backstory. It feels like we're getting richer and darker into this history. If we look at some flashbacks and we see how Snape was treated by Lupin and Co, like the threesome, the Marauders, then that's nice to see in future episodes. But really having some flashbacks to plant the seed early would be really good with this. Thank you very much, and I appreciate you watching these episodes along with me. I really enjoy making these. Give me a like on this video if you enjoyed this, and it gives me an indication so I can carry on making all of these. I know I'm a bit advanced because 2027 is when the first 2 seasons come out, but I'm already making season 3. It's because I'm enjoying this so much, so I'm happy to share my ideas with you, what I think should be included. There's just so much we've got in the books. It's hard to pick out what we should have, what we shouldn't have. So do let me know what you think would be good to have in this series and this season. I'm on X, which is Twitter, at Wondatell. Drop me a message there or just drop a comment below, and I'll see you on the next video of this season. Episode 4, we had the cliffhanger of the fat lady, the painting being slashed, and the students screaming, "It's Sirius Black." So I feel like this is a moment we can expand on. In the book there's a lot of detail here, but I want to go into some of this further because I think the students going around Hogwarts needs to be more addressed. We want to see actual footage of them like going around different classes, what the vibe is like, and how these impact each of the points where the different houses enter their chambers. So I feel like there's a good point here where we can look at the fat lady, but also I wanted to touch on the boggart lesson, which is a big one, as we're midway, kind of halfway through. We're on episode 5 now, so I want to start speeding up a little bit because I feel like there's a lot I want to see, but I'm limiting each episode to about 2 or 3 points that I can think about that I'd like to expand on, because the movies are there, we've got the books, and now HBO has the chance to really make this special. Professor Lupin's boggart lessons, they're very important for the progression of Harry, and it's finally a chance that they've got a teacher who's patient, approachable and calm, and he's like more like the right teacher can make the subject very good for you. And it feels like Harry needed this, because now he's got a way of trying to get over that fear that he's got from especially the Dementors, and that when the screams he heard, how he felt. And I think there's different elements here we can touch on, because teachers compared to especially Snape, there's like a big difference between Lupin and Snape. So I feel like that's why there's a little bit of like hostility between the two teachers, as well as the past. We touched on that in the last episode. So the teaching style of Lupin creates a supportive environment, and I feel like it encourages students like to face their fears, especially because we get that moment of Longbottom, and he gets Snape in and as dressed up as Gran. So it's like very interesting how they play that. I like the movie version of that. I think we can stick to that. They should do a version of it. And we've obviously got the new cast now, so it'll be amazing to see how they make these new roles stand out for them. Also, boggarts, it's like, what is boggarts? What is a lesson about? So boggarts are shape shifters that take the form of one's greatest fear. And I think Lupin explains the importance of facing your fears in like in a way of also boggarts, and it's humor. Like, what is boggarts? What is a lesson about that, so which makes people a little bit more comfortable, especially the students. Form, and I really enjoyed watching that in the book. Fear. Before we get to this point, there's a lot more rich detail between like how Malfoy's talking about Buckbeak, and all this detail about, oh, my dad's quite influential, so like it's possible that Buckbeak's not going to have a nice outcome out of all of this. So I feel like there's a little bit elements there we can touch on before we get to the lessons, but I'm jumping straight to the main points. Also, I'm jumping around because that's how I think about the book and then the movie when I'm moving these. So I'm hoping you're finding these insights very helpful. The charm ridiculous turns like the fear into like almost joking. So it's like a key theme of overcoming fear through like the mindset and the wit that the teacher can bring to the role, and how he's telling the kids like, this is what you can do. I feel at this point we're also getting a really important Neville's character development. So throughout the book, like there's quite a lot of mention about Neville, and we don't know like how important it is, like the class joker, the jester as it were, but slowly we're building up to a point that he's almost as important as Harry, like his development of how he's becoming better and what he will be in eventual seasons. And also because he's a key point in like the lesson here, because he's got a fear of Snape, and then Professor Lupin kind of brings that to a point where it shows his courage, and he's like made into a bit of a joke of Snape, and Lupin really encourages him to like get over that fear, not only with Snape but other things. He can use the same kind of scenario. And it's also good to see how Neville's success is like encouraged and then it's celebrated and highlighted. And during this scene it's also important to see like the different students, so maybe Snape's like idea of how he teaches and the attitude, he's like sharply different. It contrasts to Lupin's supportive manner. So I think Snape's bullying of Neville in front of others kind of underscores ongoing tension and injustice in like the teaching environment. So it's important in the book, we get quite a bit about that, where he makes a mistake and Snape's like, I will feed that potion to your toad and see how well he does. Make sure next time you don't make a mistake. And like Hermione tries to help, but Snape's like, oh, we don't want to give you a chance to show off. So he's very like mean in some of his comments as a teacher and not encouraging, which is like sharply contrasted with Lupin. And I feel there's just different empathy levels, insecurity, and we know what's happened to Snape, but is that justified, him treating everybody else badly for the rest of his life because he was bullied when he was younger? What do you think? I saw a fan film about Snape and the Marauders, and then I finally see how badly Snape was treated, like when he was younger. That was a fan film, so they put it in a different perspective, but it's very encouraging to see, okay, now I get it, why he hates XXX so much. If you haven't seen that, I might link it in the description. It's like a great fan film that will give you a bit of insight and knowledge to that. There's a lot of stuff out there that HBO could use as flashbacks, like just to give us a better idea. Because originally, when I didn't see that fan film, I didn't get the extent of why Snape is what he is. It's like, why is he so mean towards like certain people? But then you find out, oh, okay, there's a nice backstory. It's always two sides to a story, and it's only when you see the full picture that you can understand, okay, it's not justified he's mean, but now you understand why he's mean. So there's loads of bits here that HBO could really touch on and tap into to bring that all into one series, because we've got more time. And I feel like during this season, this episode as well, there's a lot of fear and encouragement and courage to kind of find out, okay, throughout this journey now, we're identifying the fears, we're finding the internal and external fears that we've all got and bringing them forward. So like Ron's scared of the spider, Neville's scared of Snape. So like it's bringing those out and then finding a way of being able to get over them, and also do it in like a fun and safe environment, because even now Harry is still not able to get over his fear factor of Dementors and how they treat him, really like they want to just suck his life out. So it's a little bit confusing. It's connecting the Voldemort and Dementors towards like what is to be coming in future. And also this moment is leading up towards Harry facing the bugger with his fear, the Dementors. And at this point, it's very interesting how Lupin handles this, because now like Harry's, psyching himself up to be ready to handle what he knows is coming. And he feels like, is he ready? Isn't he ready? But it looks like there's an executive decision made by Lupin, because obviously he stands in the way. So he doesn't actually let Harry directly face his fear. And we want to see a little bit of thinking around this. Why did Lupin step in the way? Did he think Harry wasn't ready yet, or did he know that there's deeper rooted issues here with like the Voldemort Dementors link? And there's loads of little details there that I'd really like to be seen expanded. So also, did he do that because he didn't want Harry to be like embarrassed in front of all the school in the class? Because if he fainted again, Malfoy's already taking the mick out of him. So is that why Lupin stepped in? Because he was like, you know what, I'm not sure you're ready for this yet. It's a big challenge. And then that obviously leads to that tutoring, closer connection to make him understand what's going on. And that's a really important relationship to carry on going through the seasons. And I feel Lupin's subtle protection over Harry is foreshadowing a deeper connection. So is there something deeper that is there that needs to be expanded on? Because he's obviously not let Harry face his fear, because a bugger was meant to be his to handle, but he made the decision to not allow him to do that, especially with like James Potter and Harry's parents and like the connections there. Is it possible that when we introduce Lupin, there's like a flashback to maybe how he knew his parents and how he wants to be protective over Harry, knowing what's to come? So there's loads of extra detail here, which is very important. The foreshadowing, personal history that Lupin can share. Maybe like that's a point that we can have in discussion, because in the books there's mention of this. But when Lupin steps in the way and Harry's not able to face the bugger, maybe there's like a little scene there that can happen to explain that, oh, you know what, this is what's going on, Harry, and this is, I knew your parents, and a bit more about how he's protecting him to try and get him ready to face the fear, the extra training that takes place. There's loads of extra information here that would be really good to have, and I feel like HBO can really do a good job having this expanded out. So in summary, for this episode, we get a little bit more about Lupin's teaching style, how he's so different from Snape. We get like the transformative power and empowerment of Neville, like the story around how he's building up, the power of fear and laughter, like how Lupin's able to make this a little bit more easier for everybody, and also the famous unspoken struggle of Harry, where he still didn't face the bugger, and why Lupin stepped in. So I feel these are like key elements that I wanted to expand on in this episode. There's quite a lot here, I've learned from season 1 and season 2 because I wanted just too much and we couldn't fit it all in. So now I'm trying to reduce these down so we get the main key elements in each episode. So at least we're getting more than we got in the movies, and we're getting a little bit more out from the books and stuff that kind of resonates with me personally, which I remember from the reading of the book, listening to audiobooks as well as the movies. Let me know what you think should be expanded in this episode. Also, the cliffhanger for this episode, I think it should be Marauder's map. Harry gets handed the Marauder's map, he sees the footsteps, and now he's kind of like, oh, okay, that's interesting. This is obviously because the Hogsmeade thing and he couldn't get there, so it's going to be very interesting for the next episode. I'm doing these episode at a time. I'm going to make all of them into a binge-worthy cut, but once the binge-worthy cut comes out at the end, you'll have everything to watch in one go. But so far, you're getting an advanced view episode by episode. Thank you for joining me in episode 6 of season 3, Harry Potter HBO TV series in my vision. This is of course the Prisoner of Azkaban, and how I think HBO can make this season and series epic. Today we're going to pick up where we left off on the last episode, which was basically Harry getting the Marauder's map and what that means for the journey. I'm going to touch on a few key points that I think should be highlighted in the HBO series from the movies and the books. What is it that we need more on? They gave it to Harry so he can sneak into Hogsmeade, the Marauder's map. That's why it was handed to Harry, because he didn't have the permission he needed, which he's been seeking quite badly throughout this season. And I feel like this is an element that gives the success of the story. The map is magical, it's amazing, lets you know who's doing what, where, when, and you can kind of use that in a good way and a bad way. Fred and George call it a spare bit of parchment, but it holds some amazing secrets, and this is what's going to give Harry the option to get to Hogsmeade because he didn't get his permission slip signed. So in this episode we're going to cover a couple of key elements, and we're going to get to a point where we understand why is it so important. There's a lot of story here, and HBO could make this really magical. So the deeper narrative is the map was created by James Potter and his friends, the Marauders. Even though Harry doesn't know this yet, like what does that mean? It's a legacy item, it's from the past, it's very important, and it's like a generation of troublemakers basically were using this. And I feel in this episode it's a couple of key elements. We get more details from Cornelius Fudge about the betrayal of the Potters, how Sirius played an important part in this, Pettigrew, and there's loads of juicy detail here. I feel like we're right in the midst of it here, so I need to pick out some key things that I want to expand on. And reading the book, listening to the audiobook, checking the movies, I think the emphasis during this part of the story is really around Sirius. He's a godfather, best friend, and he's even like considered a secret keeper, but the way he's pitched is like he's gone against the family and he's kind of like betrayed everyone. It's quite a lot of irony here because Harry believes the betrayal at this stage and he gets really angry, and it's shocking like feeling the characters like McGonagall who knew him, like they knew Sirius, and even Rosmeta. And I feel Rosmeta can get her a little bit here as well, because it's very important to get this. She's the hostess, the owner of the 3 broomsticks, and that's like a location which is quite important throughout the Prisoner of Azkaban, because that's where the Ministry meets Hogwarts teachers to discuss points. It's like a place away from both to secretly discuss things, and she kind of facilitates the conversations and how things are set up. So while not a spy, she's well informed about like the village. She'll know about rumors and events, and she'll act like a bit of a gossip queen and giving everybody like in check about what's the situation at the moment in the wizarding world. So she's quite like a cheery person. She sets the tone of the 3 broomsticks, and they've got that environment where she kind of looks after all the wizarding people and the Gillywater and the Moldmead, and like kind of looks after the pub as well as the wizarding world. So maybe have her as like a key element as a character to set out what's going on, because of course this is the key place where Harry's able to listen in and find out about the conversations about Sirius Black and the backstory, which is essential for the storyline. And obviously he leaves very angrily, finding out what's going on. So this is where it's hard for Harry to kind of understand who he should believe, who he shouldn't believe. There's a lot of like emotional depth as part of this story, especially like when the story starts coming out and Peter Pettigrew's information is leaked. So it's kind of like he's set up as like a pathetic but loyal friend who died confronting evil, and it makes like the truth a little bit more shocking as we start discovering what's going on and the overall tragedy. He's Pettigrew's praised as a hero, while the story is like hidden in like plain sight. So it's like, wait, what? So it's what's going on, what's true, what isn't true, quite a lot of rumors. And Harry's emotional state and isolation is like advanced in this part of the season. It's almost like Harry's starting to become grown up now, and he's starting to get involved in grown up problems. So far he's kind of like been innocent and like he didn't really know what was going on, but now he's slowly seeing these things which are popping out at him. He feels like now he's hearing the story as the person that gave him the scar being harbored by someone who's meant to be his godfather. So it's like loads of little like things there which are hard to dissect. It's very emotional and depth orientated in the book. It's the matter of getting that portrayed in like a good script version in the movie. So we see that, but we also get flashbacks, maybe like plant a seed of obsession, like, oh wait a minute, I need to find out more about this. And Harry's now got a vendetta against Black to truly find out what's going on and kind of get him. So now that early scene where Arthur's told him don't go after Sirius Black makes sense, because he's like, why would I want to go after someone who's trying to kill me? So it kind of, there's loads of little elements that tie all of this together really nicely. And one moment that I really liked was the fact that we get more detail about Hogsmeade and how much of a magical place that is. It's almost like a Willy Wonka's chocolate factory within the wizarding world, and there's so much there that we could elaborate on. We see elements of it in the movie, but the book paints such a vivid picture of this, and I feel like we can have a full, like all the best sweets, chocolates, the best shops, and that I might make a separate episode about that. Let me know in the comments, should I make like my top 10 Hogsmeade places to visit if you're in the Wizarding World? What would I? Ooh. Honeydukes, the Three Broomsticks, the Hogshead Inn, Zanko's Joke Shop, Toms and Scrolls, Dogweed and Deathcap. You can almost think of the non-wizarding versions of these shops that were adapted. So it's so rich, Hogsmeade. The way they picture in the movies was really nice. I feel like there's like a nice little option here to kind of lower the tone a little bit, to get it a bit more relaxed. A little bit of a throwback to season 1, season 2, because this season's very dark. Like there's a lot more adult topics around like betrayal and how Sirius Black is out to get Harry, and is he really a betraying person to the family? Did he help Voldemort get Harry and kill his parents? Like there's a whole new timeline here, and I feel like there's too much detail to fully encompass. We've got 10 episodes. We're already on episode 6. How well are we doing? Is there a key moment you think we should have had? I've kind of missed over the Thunderbolt, the Quidditch stuff. I missed over a lot of that, which kind of gets Harry hurt. The Patronus, where he's again kind of done by the Dementors, and now this time he's in hospital trying to recover. So it's like there's loads of elements here that we need to dive into, and I feel like I need to focus on a few key elements, because otherwise, because there's so much, we're going to easily get lost in these episodes. While all of this is going on, we've even got like the layer of extra information, because Hermione's intelligence and tension, like how she's turning up to lessons. There's been little foresights of this happening. Ron is asking, how can you have these lessons at the same time as other lessons, and what? And she was like, I've squared it off with McGonagall, so she knows. But how can you be in two classes at the same time? So the time turner twist, oh my days, the frustration around like how they can use that, what they can do with it, what they end up using it for, and then there's loads of bits coming around that. So it's really interesting, and I feel like there's loads of rich storytelling here to have. But how many of these need their own episode, and how much needs more time on HBO's vision? I feel the Patronus training is a key element here, which we can slowly bring this season to. I think the Patronus section is a good bit where we can start bringing this episode to a cliffhanger, because he's starting to learn Patronus to help him with the training. Lupin's there, they're setting the scene. Harry's really intent on learning it. Lupin's giving him more and more encouragement. They're slowly kind of getting. I think the film they did a good job here, but we can expand on how intent Harry was to try and learn this. And then obviously he pushes it so far that he's out of it. So this would be the cliffhanger where he actually collapses during his Patronus training. And we decide, is Harry actually ready to handle the Dementors? And what will happen next? So that'll be the cliffhanger for this episode. There's a lot going on at the moment with Harry and the whole journey. But in the next episode, Harry is even more determined to learn the Patronus. Does he succeed? I'm on X on Twitter, so share your thoughts with me. How do you think these episodes are going? If you're liking these, drop a like on this video. It encourages me to carry on with these. And I've got a full binge cut version of these episodes. Check the description. This is episode 7 of season 3, HBO's Harry Potter series. How I think they should pitch it and what they should include, and most importantly, lots of important bits from the books that they missed out. Thank you for joining me on this journey. I appreciate you being here. Let's dive into today's episode. We left off on episode 6 with Harry struggling with the Patronus, and I feel like this episode can really give us some key Patronus magic. It is very windy today and it's very cold. Oh, that's nice and cozy now. We can relax. Let's get on with the story today. That look okay? So we left off on episode 6 where Harry was struggling with the Patronus. So I feel like Harry is determined to learn the Patronus, to master it, because he wants to be able to handle the Dementors. Like, he got a taste of the kiss of the Dementor and it really sucked the life out of him, and he wanted to figure out what he could do. Lupin's really been getting involved, trying to help him. There's quite a little bit here that we get in the books that I don't think we get in the movies. Like, for example, Harry manages a weak Patronus, so it shows that he's progressing. And there's also an element here where when he's part of this process of being sucked out and having the kiss of the Dementors, he's hearing like his parents screaming and the voices and things. So part of him, he wants to kind of reimagine that. Can he get more out of this? Can he hear more? Is there more going on behind the scenes? Also, there's a little bit of dialogue between Harry and Lupin around like the Dementor's kiss and how it sucks the life out of you, and you're kind of getting a feeling of not always having this, and that they're in Azkaban. And even Lupin is saying things like, no one should deserve this. It's like taking a feeling and giving you really bad depression and stuff. Lupin questions it and he says, does anyone deserve that? Even Sirius Black. It's like he's exacting more complexity here, because going back, if you think about the journey and who these characters are, we will slowly find out the link between everybody and how our world will get flipped, because we think someone is really bad, but there's always two sides to a story. And HBO could really work on this and kind of give us this element. They did it in the movies quite nicely. When you first watch it or when you read the book, it's like a thing that flips, like, oh, what? Oh no, I've been thinking this person's really bad when they're not, or this person's good but he's actually bad. So they do that very nice. There's a nice flip there that happens. In the book, there's loads of elements where we get like exercises where it's like building the relationship, where Harry and Lupin are sharing drinks, and there's a lot more rich detail here. I'm going to read a section of the book to you that I liked. Lupin tapped the kettle with his wand and a blast of steam issued suddenly from the spout. Sit down, said Lupin, taking the lid off a dusty tin. I've only got tea bags, I'm afraid, but I dare say you've had enough of tea leaves. Harry looked at him. Lupin's eyes were twinkling. How did you know about that? Harry asked. Professor McGonagall told me, said Lupin, passing Harry a chipped mug of tea. You're not worried, are you? No, said Harry. He thought for a moment of telling Lupin about the dog he'd seen in Magnolia Crescent, but decided not to. He didn't want Lupin to think he was a coward, especially since Lupin already seemed to think he couldn't cope with the boggart. That's like a nice excerpt where it's getting a little bit more relaxed for Harry. He's getting someone you can confide in, a teacher who knows what's going on. He's trying to teach him the Patronus, and there's like more depth there, and all of these little moments build up to the magic. So I feel like this is a moment we could really add into the movies, the series, the TV series, and I want to see more of that. At the same time, there's a lot more going on in this episode, which I'm going to touch on and what I want to see about it. At the same time, while this is all going on, I feel like there's something here that plays into future episodes. So Hermione's mysterious schedule. So Ron's noticing Hermione's taking lessons and multiple classes, and he's like, how could this be happening at the same time? So I want this to be some type of, not overlay, but like a view of like a timetable to show, or like on a bit of parchment, like Hermione's lessons for today, and it's showing conflicts. That would be like a really nice addition on HBO's version, just to bring us in on the suspicion, the curiosity of how is she doing this, and like, is there some type of extra work that she's doing? Is she like academic pressure? There's loads of little hints and tips. Obviously we know what's allowing her to do this, but it's not revealed yet. So I feel having this moment of extra little information which then helps us understand when that special tool is used. Hinting, I don't want to bring spoilers to you, but if you've already watched the movies or read the books, I think you'll know elements of what's going on. And there's extra bits here, especially with like this element of it, Neville forgets the password again, and highlighting the struggle of like him and the comic relief and how important he's going to be later on. So this episode, as we're in the middle of the Prisoner of Azkaban TV season, we're on episode 7 now, so well done, we're getting through it nice and easy. I'm giving you lots of significant bits that I really want to have a look at more detail on, but I know when I speak to other fans and like friends, they're all talking about different moments, so we all have our perspective on what we want to see more on, what would do well in this new TV series, and how it can give us a whole new view of the magical world. And there's even a famous butterbeer moment between Lupin, which brings the warmth to like the Harry conversation and how he's helping him get through the extra lessons for the Patronus. So that's like a big build there. I really enjoy these little elements and all these little things tied together. And another one layered between these episode 6, episode 7 is this ongoing line about Quidditch and the Firebolt plotline. So Quidditch is very important in Harry's world, and he's kind of getting these gifts of these top of the line broomsticks. So there's a little bit of tension here, and I feel like there's gifts he's being given, but he doesn't know where they're coming from. And at this moment, it's like a top of the line. Even the Nimbus 2001 at that point that Malfoy had is better than that one. So it's like Harry's got people who are gifting him stuff, but then Ron and Harry are really thrilled with that. But then you've got the perspective of Hermione, where she's so kind of a bit suspicious. She's like, well, you've got a gift. How do you know it's okay? What about if it's cursed? Who did it come from? And she's got like a different approach to it, the more sensible side. So in the book, she kind of goes and explains to McGonagall that I'm worried Harry's broomstick is confiscated, and it brings like a layer of complexity to the friendship, the tension there. Because Harry and Ron feel a little bit like betrayed, like, what? Our friend went and grassed us up about our broomstick and now I haven't got it. And I think McGonagall and Flitwick spend weeks like trying to figure out what's going on, the hidden spells and jinxes about the broom. And this kind of leads into multiple storylines, that what the students are like, what the relationship between the trio is like. Was she betraying him, or was she worried and trying to help him? So having this kind of extra layer between the episodes, especially 6 and 7 and 8 maybe, this is like an underlying thing going on. But I feel like it just builds to the tension of, in friendships there are disagreements, people look in different ways, so keep the mind open when you're watching this. Especially if you're reading the books and you want HBO to do a good version of this. I feel like they've got a lot of depth here they can play with. Eventually, after all of this, they return the firebolt to Harry. They're like, okay, there's no curses or anything on it, so we're okay with it being used. And this is right before the Ravenclaw match, which gives Harry a huge boost that he's got it like a really great broomstick to try and win this with. And it's nice that we get like a little bit of recognition saying that Harry was worried, but then because he got relieved that he got it back, he accepted that Hermione was only trying to help. So it builds like the layers of relationship and how like you can be worried one minute but easily forgive someone after that. So that could be really good for HBO to play on. And of course, all of this is missed in the movie version. What do you think? Should this be included in the HBO season? Do you want to see this extra layer of like friendship, different niggles and things that happen? I think we would be good, but what do you think? I feel like the cliffhanger for this episode needs to be Ron wakes up and he finds Scabbers missing, some blood on the sheets, and Crookshanks nearby. Did Hermione's cat kill Scabbers? That's going to be our cliffhanger. I'm hoping you're enjoying these episodes. I really like making them, and we're on season 3 already. We're ahead of HBO. I'm giving you what I think should be in these episodes. Let me know in the comments, what do you think should be in here? So in this episode, they miss out so much information. You've got Harry's first Patronus, the fake Dementor prank, the full common room party, and even Sirius Black breaking in and standing over Ron with a knife. Like, all of this stuff's missed out. So in the book, this is a really fun moment, because it turns out that the Dementors were Malfoy, Crabbe and Goyle, where Ron wakes up and Sirius is standing there with a knife. Today we are on episode 8 of season 3, HBO's new TV series for Harry Potter, Prisoner of Azkaban. I'm going through each episode in my vision to let you know what I think should be in these episodes. There's loads of great news with all the new casts and being announced. There's quite a little bit of quietness at the moment because we don't have much news about what's being filmed. I know the first 2 seasons are being filmed back to back. I've already made full uncut binge versions of those for you to see, and what I want to have included in those versions, so check those out in the description. But today we are on episode 8 of season 3. What do I want to see in the HBO series? I feel like we're deep in the storyline now. Last episode we left off with quite a lot going on. Harry did his Patronus. He was learning how to fully master that. We had storyline of Quidditch going on behind the scenes, and we left off last episode with Scabbers going missing and some blood and Crookshanks right there. Did Crookshanks kill Scabbers? Ron's in a real mood. I'm going to read a short bit from the book itself to you, which I liked. There was no arguing with this, as Ron chose that moment to say loudly, if Scabbers hadn't just been eaten, he could have had some of those fudge flies. He used to really like them. Hermione burst into tears before Harry could say or do anything. She tucked the enormous book under her arm and, still sobbing, ran toward the staircase to the girls' dormitories and out of sight. Can't you give her a break? Harry asked Ron quietly. No, said Ron flatly. If she just acted like she was sorry, but she'll never admit she's wrong. Hermione, she's still acting like Scabbers has gone on vacation or something. So we've got a little moment here now where we know something's not quite right. Something's hiding in plain sight. Scabbers missing. Has something bad happened? Sirius is out looking for someone. Is he looking for Harry? There's like already elements here if you're thinking about the storyline, but in this episode we're going to go deeper into what's been going on in this chapter of the book, what the movies missed out, and what I feel like we could really touch on. And I feel like in the books we've got more mention of like the ongoing conflict between Ron and Hermione, because his pet's gone missing and it's like quite a big deal. It gets played down in the movies. There's not much mention of it, so we could really dive into this a lot more, because Scabbers plays a big role in like the story unfolding in the Prisoner of Azkaban and how things get really intense. If you've heard the audiobook version of this, if you watch the movie and then read the books, you'll feel like, oh my days, there's so much that builds up in this episode, and the next few episodes of this season, you're going to really be interested to see them. So let me know how you're getting on with these in the comments and what bits you definitely want included. And of course, during this deep storyline going on, we've got the Quidditch match where Harry gets his broomstick back after it being tested for curses, and it's all like given the good go ahead. So he's doing the whole match. In the movies, we see elements of like Quidditch and stuff, but I don't know if we should have a full dedicated section for it, because it's quite a big sport in the wizarding world. So Harry's flying around and he's trying to get multiple variations of winning, but it's like Ravenclaw, Chu Chang's there, she's kind of chasing him around. This is in the book's version. So Harry flies his newly received firebolt, showing off its incredible speed. He's closely tailed by Chu Chang, Ravenclaw's seeker, and Harry's future crush. So there's like a lot of match intensity here, and this plays on the fact we've got the emotional side, then we've got the high of the Quidditch match going on, especially because Harry like spotted a snitch 3 times. Like, we've got this detail in the book, and he chases after it, trying to misdirect it, holding suspense and interruption between like the episode. So I don't know if there should be a moment of this having its own section, building up to like a full Quidditch like tournament style setup and all, because Wizarding World really treat Quidditch like football, soccer, and it's like really highly regarded, people training and doing it. And then obviously the Dementors, or not. Harry closes in on the snitch and he spots 3 Dementors on the field. For the first time, he successfully casts a full-fledged Patronus, something massive and silver-white, to defend himself. So in the book, we see this moment. He's defending himself. Let me find the excerpt. I want to read this to you because I feel like it's an important moment. They miss it out in the movies. Oh, screaming Cho, pointing. Distracted Harry looked down. 3 Dementors, 3 tall, black hooded Dementors were looking up at him. He didn't stop to think. Plunging a hand down the neck of his robes, he whipped out his wand and roared, "Expecto Patronum." Something silver-white, something enormous erupted from the end of his wand. He knew it had shot directly at the Dementors, but didn't pause to watch, his mind still meticulously clear. He looked ahead. He was nearly there. He stretched out the hand, still grasping his wand, and just managed to close his fingers over the small, struggling snitch. This is like a huge victory for Harry. He's been training, spending extra time with Lupin, trying to work out how well he could do this, and he was able to achieve it. But guess what? The Dementors were not Dementors. There were 3 Dementors. So in the book, this is a really fun moment, because it turns out that the Dementors were Malfoy, Crabbe, and Goyle. Malfoy, Crabbe, Goyle, and Marcus Flint in disguise. I'm just reading the book details. The reason they did that, they wanted Ravenclaw to win. So they wanted Harry to faint. So McGonagall catches them in the act and gives detentions and deducts 50 points from Slytherin. So that's like a surprise. I like that detail in the book. We could really do with that in the HBO version. What do you think? That's like such a nice moment where they're playing on the fact that Harry's like kind of like, oh, he's a bit scared. He's been training, but at the same time, it's a win-win because Harry was able to prove that he could do it, and it was a joke at the same time. So there wasn't like real danger there. The Gryffindor has a big celebration, so there's like a huge party because obviously they're winning. Fred and George sneak in butterbeers and sweets from Hogsmeade using their Marauders map knowledge. Remember the Marauders map? That's like a whole another thing we can look at and details on. Hermione's left out again. She's basically struggling. She's like training for her exams or schoolwork, and she's very into the studying side of it. So we don't see as much of her from there. And there's even moments in the book where Ron wakes up and Sirius is standing there with a knife. So it's like Sirius Black has broken in to the tower, Gryffindor Tower. So the students panic. McGonagall investigates, initially thinking it's a prank or a dream, but there's like extra detail in the book that I really suggest, if you like Harry Potter, check out the book if you haven't already checked out the book. There's so much more information there. There's like extra stories and you'll really enjoy and being like getting detail. If you watched only the films and now you read the books, you'll be like, oh wow, it's like you've got a whole new behind the scenes extra footage that you've not thought about. And because we've seen the films, we can memorize and understand the characters and then use the story to kind of put that in your mind. So it's very nice to read it. What I will do is I'll put some links in the description to the box set or the books so you can get a hold of them. I think they're available in most places, Amazon or something. It'll be an affiliate link so you can check that out in the description. The fake Dementor prank. So in this episode, they miss out so much information. You've got Harry's first Patronus, the fake Dementor prank, the full common room party, and even Sirius Black breaking in and standing over Ron with a knife. Like, all of this stuff's missed out. I really want this to be included. I'm going to go into it in more detail, which I've gone through, and I'm going to explain why I think it should be included. It gives us this extra feeling of bringing the whole storyline together. HBO's got more time, they've got more series and more episodes that they can really flesh this out and make it amazing for us. I really hope they dig it. And the fact that Sirius broke out of Azkaban, where the Dementors were looking after it, and now he's broken into the Gryffindor Tower, even though there's heightened security, it shows Sirius Black is a step ahead. It's like, are they actually really safe? If he can get there and stand over Ron's bed with a knife, in the book version, if you read it, you'll see that there's a lot more detail there that the movies miss. What is going on? And how about the cliffhanger for this episode? Well, Harry got up, picked up his bag and turned to go, but then a loud, harsh voice spoke behind him. "It will happen tonight." Harry wheeled around. Professor Trelawney had gone rigid in her armchair. Her eyes were unfocused and her mouth sagging. "Sorry?" said Harry, but Professor Trelawney didn't seem to hear him. Her eyes started to roll. Harry sat there in a panic. She looked as though she was about to have some sort of seizure. He hesitated, thinking of running to the hospital wing, and then Professor Trelawney spoke again in the same harsh voice, quite unlike her own. "The Dark Lord lies alone and friendless, abandoned by his followers. His servant has been chained these 12 years. Tonight, before midnight, the servant will break free and set out to rejoin his master. The Dark Lord will rise again with his servant's aid, greater and more terrible than ever he was. Tonight, before midnight, the servant will set out to rejoin his master." Oh dear. So that's our cliffhanger for this one. It's going to get really interesting. There's loads of stuff I want to see here, and it's going to be tricky how we fit this all in. We're doing 10 episodes for this series. I might do some extra bonus ones at the end just to tie everything together. Episode 9 of Series 3 of HBO's new Harry Potter TV series. What I want to see in my vision. Well done, you've made it here. We're very close to the finale in the next episode, and right now we're going to have some fun. What's happening is everything's coming into the pot now. So there's multiple storylines going on. We had Buckbeak, we've got Professor Trelawney, we've got Sirius Black, we've got Snape. There's loads of storylines that were open, and now in this episode it's going to be the case that HBO is going to start including everything to the building up of the tension. Scabbers went missing, remember? In the last episode we left off with Professor Trelawney going into a trance and giving like Harry a warning through another voice, which I tried to make up, and hopefully you found that one interesting. We're picking up here where Harry gets the warning and then he's kind of not sure what's going on, but he's getting insights into this, so let's see what happens. But at the same time, because it's such big storylines coming to a close in this episode, there's also the fun element. I want to keep that within the HBO series. The Marauders map, Snape catches. I wonder if that's why they came up with Snape. It's Snake, but Snape, just P instead of a K. Interesting thought. Side tangent, sorry. Okay, so the Marauders map is fun, and Harry's kind of caught by Snake in this case, with Zonko's sweets and things and the map, and Snape kind of takes you and tries to unreveal its secrets, and it kind of classic, what did they say? Let me check the exact wording. Mr. Mooney presents his compliments to Professor Snape. Keep his abnormally large nose out of other people's business. Snape is furious and calls Lupin. So this is like a nice little scene which can bring us a bit of humor, I think. And this is where like it's confiscated and Lupin recognizes the map immediately and lies to protect Harry. Like there's all these little things that are coming together. Your parents gave their lives to keep you alive, Harry. A poor way to repay them, gambling their sacrifice for a bag of magic tricks. And he conversates his map. I think this is like I didn't realize how significant this part was, in especially the Marauders map, and like the storyline behind the friends, and how there's always elements of the current youth think that the older people don't know what's going on, but the older people have been through that. And like when Harry finds out what's going on in later episodes, it's really good to see that he's like, what? You knew about the map? And it's like, actually, we invented it. So like the older generation behind Harry Potter, his parents had the lot of what Harry's going through now, the magical, the outbreak, the like not following the rules entirely and trying to be a little bit outside and be mischievous, and like Snape's obsession with Harry, his father, like all of this starts coming into this episode where we're starting to hear what's been going on. There will be more in this, but let's have a look at more details. And even during this process, when like after this map incident, Hermione tells Ron and Harry about Buckbeak's case and like how that's turned out. So it's like very emotional. We've got the fun element, we've got the serious element, there's lives at risk, there's someone out to get Harry, and Ron's Scabbers has gone missing, and then in this episode you're going to see Ron go missing as well. So all of this is going to be like building up to a really amazing scene, which I want to see in proper detail. I don't know if we should include it in this episode or keep it for the finale. What do you think so far? Are we on pace? I'm trying to keep the most important parts here, at the same time not miss out the fun bits. But when I read the books, I feel like there's so much more I want to cover. But I know HBO won't be able to cover the whole entire thing. They're going to have to cherry pick things out, because they've got a tough job kind of getting everything included and making it as good as, or if not better than the movies, which is going to be a difficult challenge. We touch on the fact that Hagrid's like really devastated because the Malfoy's cruelty, in terms of like Buckbeak's going to basically lose it now, and Hagrid starts blaming himself. So the gentle giant is like worried. The trio encourage him and try and keep him like calm. So I think there's extra elements here we can play on for the emotion side of this. But I think in this episode I want to focus on some key elements that I really want shown well. So reading the books, I feel like the Whomping Willow bit where Scabbers and Ron are dragged in, and like Sirius is trying to get Scabbers basically because he knows who Scabbers is. I feel that one was done okay. There was enough detail in the movies. In the book, there's a whole nother chapter and like more details explaining why things were the way they were. So for example, I'd really like to see the extra background story around Lupin and how Dumbledore gave him the role. He knew he was Animagus. He knew that he was transforming into a werewolf, and how he used the Wolfbane, and he asked Snape to make him a special serum to keep his transformation in check. I think in the book we get this, but we don't get it in the movies. HBO needs to add this. There's a section in the book which explains this very nicely, where it basically says Snape makes some special Bane juice for Lupin to try and make him transform in a safe way, and the Whomping Willow was actually planted when Lupin started, because they wanted a place for him to wolf out safely. So it's almost like they've created a timeline where the Whomping Willow's there to protect the hole, to allow Lupin to go into the Shrieking Shack to safely become a werewolf, and then when he's okay he can come back out again. So there's like a whole nother area there that's totally missed out, and it almost brings back Wolf Blood vibes. If you've seen the BBC drama Wolf Blood, it's like a slight touch on that. That's worth checking out if you've not seen it. So here's a section that I like, which we need to have in the HBO version. Lupin sighed and looked directly at Harry. I told you months ago that the Whomping Willow was planted the year I came to Hogwarts. The truth is that it was planted because I came to Hogwarts. This house, Lupin looked miserably around the room. The tunnel that leads to it, they were built for my use. Once a month, I was smuggled out of the castle into this place to transform. The tree was placed at the tunnel mouth to stop anyone coming across me while I was dangerous. Harry couldn't see this. Harry couldn't see where this story was going, but he was listening raptly all the time. The only sound apart from Lupin's voice was Scabbers' frightening squeaking. My transformation in those days were terrible. It was painful to turn into a werewolf. I was separated from humans to bite, so I bit and scratched myself instead. The villagers heard the noise and the screaming and thought they were hearing particularly violent spirits. Dumbledore encouraged the rumour. So in summary, this episode's kind of bringing everything to a close now. So we understand why Lupin is what he is. It's even better than that. We understand why the Whomping Willow was there, which I really liked, enjoyed that bit. And then Sirius Black, Scabbers hiding, Wormtail. That's all. If the first time you watch this is really amazing, but as you see it more often, you understand how it ties together. And then the Buckbeak coming to a close, as well as Ron and Hermione and Harry's relationship building to another level, and how Malfoy manipulates like the powers that be for the Buckbeak thing. We've got other bits that are going to be very interesting that we're going to come on to now. So I feel like the cliffhanger for this episode needs to be Lupin reveals Sirius's innocence. It wasn't Sirius Black, it was Peter Pettigrew. And that's the cliffhanger. I'm going to split this into 2 episodes, because the last one, the finale, episode 10, we can start looking at some more interesting things like the Time Turner. We find out what's going on there. We're going to have a look at Peter Pettigrew, a little bit more about the story. But so far, I've built out little elements that I want to see more on. But the finale is going to be really aimed at the Time Turner. What do you think? How are we doing so far? I really enjoyed Prisoner of Azkaban, and I think next episode I want to be able to flesh it out a little bit more to set the scene, set the expectations. If you're enjoying the way I'm doing these, like the video and drop me a comment of what you think should be included. I know I'm only cherry picking out certain elements. There's so much we can play on, but hopefully HBO do it justice. Episode 10 of Season 3 HBO Harry Potter TV series. This is my take on what I think this entire season should have been like. I've gone through episode by episode, giving you my vision of what I think should be in this season. The first 2 seasons have been completely done. They're binge worthy, ready for you. And this is the one where we're going a little bit off script now. I've really enjoyed making these videos, and I'm giving you my vision. In the last episode we left off with it wasn't Sirius Black, it was Peter Pettigrew. So they're in the Shrieking Shack. We've got all the details there. I liked how they did it in the movies, but there was loads of elements in the books that was missed out. So that's what we're elaborating on. I feel like there's a lot more we could do here, because now we're coming to a point where a few things come together. We're going to try and get the main culprit found. He transforms into a person. We've got Snape coming into the party because he wants to find out what's going on, into the house. And there's loads of elements in the books that I missed out. I'm going to go through some of these, and this chapter really ties together several emotional being elements, like Ron lost his Scabbers and how he felt, and we've got Sirius Black, we've got Lupin. Like, everybody's got a secret. It's like there's so much secrets there. Then we got Snape coming in on the action, and then Ron's, obviously his leg's broken, so he's been nursed in a way. They're going to have to get everybody out of the Shrieking Shack, or the Dementors going to attack them again. There's loads of extra little details here that I missed out in the book. I'm going to touch on those today. And also that big choice where Harry has, is like he chooses justice over revenge. So this gives us a deep storyline into how Harry Potter is thinking. And now he's a little bit older, and he's at a point where he could like get his revenge. This is a quote from it. "I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing it because I don't reckon my dad would have wanted them to become killers just for you." So it's like a lot of moral maturity here. It's Harry chooses not to let Sirius and Lupin kill Pettigrew, even though this man betrayed his parents and caused their deaths. So he's kind of doing the moral high ground here, and this sets him apart from, in future, we know slowly where things are leading to, and it gives us an idea of what Harry believes and how strongly he sticks to what he believes. And also in the book version of this, we get more about Peter Pettigrew and Sirius, and we get more chapters about the guys before, how they were during their Hogwarts years, and also how they say Peter Pettigrew basically just tags on to the most successful people and like drains and lives off them. It was James Potter, Sirius Black and Lupin in their time, and then when they were not around, he kind of went towards Voldemort, and Peter Pettigrew was kind of their little scapegoat, like little helper and servant. So that's extra information we get in the books, which I feel like HBO could really touch on, just to bring this to a nice wrap. But Sirius and Lupin's rage is like Harry's leadership. He's kind of like the calm voice of trying to hear things out and deciding which way things will go and what should happen to kind of bring this justice back, if that was a thing. And there's an entire section in the book that's actually missed out in the movies, and I feel like HBO could really bring this back to life. As they're leaving the Shrieking Shack and going through the Whomping Willow, there's like a whole nother Dementor scene. I want to read out a little section of this to you. I find it really interesting how they pitch this. The Dementor must have released him. The binding light was illuminating the grass around him. The screaming had stopped. The cold was ebbing away. Something was driving the Dementors back. It was cycling around him, and Black and Hermione, they were leaving. The air was warm again. With every ounce of strength he could muster, Harry raised his head a few inches and saw an animal amid the light, galloping away across the lake, eyes blurred with sweat. Harry tried to make out what it was. It was upright as a unicorn. Fighting to stay conscious, Harry watched it canter to a halt as it reached the opposite shore. For a moment, Harry saw by its brightness somebody welcoming it back, raising his hand to pat it, someone who looked strangely familiar, but it couldn't be. Harry didn't understand. He couldn't think anymore. He felt the last of his strength leave him, and his head hit the ground as he fainted. And then we get the Hermione's secret. So here is a lot of extra details that I've missed out. So we've got a full section here which wasn't really covered in the movies. So the bits, this is basically chapter 20 of the books. So the chapter reveals how Sirius Black betrayed Harry's parents. They kind of figured out, okay, we know who's good, who's bad. They're trying to get Pettigrew out of the scene. And then in the movies, they skip all the detail about the emotional, tense confrontation between Harry, Sirius, Lupin, Pettigrew. And it also drives deep into the story. But the leaving and the Dementors are like a main thing that I think needs a little bit more focus, a little bit more pacing in the new series. Then we get to a moment here. I'm kind of giving you these as I think of them, and I'm jumping about quite a bit, so sorry if it doesn't make perfect sense. I'm trying to find the best moments I want to see more detail on. The movies did do an okay job with quite a few sections. The books got a lot more detail, but then again, the book's like probably 12 hours worth of reading or something. Okay, so we're at the point now where we know what Pettigrew is. We know Sirius Black, Lupin, Snape was there, Harry was there. They're all doing their thing. They're trying to get away. We have the second phase of like the Dementors trying to suck the life out of them. And then we get to Hermione's secret, the Time Turner. I feel like the movies did a good version of this. We kind of saved Buckbeak in this process of wrapping up the whole season. He's in hospital. Dumbledore says 2 twists, and they do that little scene. That was all in the movies, so I'm not going to touch too much on those. I liked those. I like we saved Buckbeak. And I feel like there were loads of elements in these that I just want more intense information about all of them. If we get more intense information about each of the scenes that I talked about, I'd really like that. And there's key elements there. So we're kind of getting to season 3, and now this is the finale. We've basically gone through, I've given you my vision of it, and I want to bring this to a close. I really enjoyed you being here with me. Thank you for joining me on this episode. I really like going through these episodes. It's almost like I'm watching the movies all over again, reading the books all over again to find the key moments that I really like. So I'm glad you're here with me, joining me on this journey. We've done 3 seasons so far. Pat yourself on the back. Well done, you've been here with me doing it throughout this. So we're making our little team now. We've got a little Harry Potter crew together. Should I do the next season? Is it time to do season 4? What do you think? Yeah, why not? It's nice to see, but I like your encouragement. Just give me that extra boost. Like this video, drop me a comment of which bits you like the best and what you want to see most for the next season. I will be making a binge cut episode of this as well. If you're enjoying these, drop a comment below, like the video, follow me over on X for behind the scenes and extra information about all these episodes and what I decide to go in. I'll do loads of polls there to ask you what you want included. I really appreciate you being here. Check out the next episode in the series here, or you'll see the full binge cut version of this season.